Welcome to a Know Your Universe explaining what Star Wars Legends versus the new canon is. This video is being made for the year of fandom for the Wikia fan studio. So with the original extended universe ending in the comics and Disney setting forth new rules, I figured it would be fun to explain the difference to prepare you for episode 7 this year. So first, let's explain what the difference between Legends and canon is. Now on April 25th, Lucasfilm, which is now owned by Disney, announced that they would be splitting the old universe into a separate continuity from the direction that they're going to take the franchise. This will allow them to be unencumbered by the current existing expanded universe and will allow them to write their own future for the Star Wars franchise. This was decided for a couple of reasons. First, the original cast of characters comes up a lot in the expanded universe. This works fine in books and comic books where people don't have to age. But if you're going to make a movie, you need the actors to somewhat look like themselves still. Secondly, the expanded universe is massive, and anything Disney tries to do with the franchise will be just filled with plot holes and issues thanks to countless extra sources of material that would contradict it. So now you're probably asking yourself, what is the expanded universe? Well, the expanded universe is material that expands and continues the stories from the films and can take place anywhere in the Star Wars history. The rule has always been that the expanded universe cannot contradict the films, but the films are allowed to contradict the expanded universe. This universe begins with the Dawn of the Jedi comic series that takes place a millennia before the movies, and it currently seems to end with the Legacy comic series that takes place 130 years after Return of the Jedi. So to avoid having to deal with such a rich history, Disney officially stated that it will not be using any of the expanded universe. In their new universe, they're only going to use the 6 films and the Star Wars Clone Wars television series and film. So that's it, the whole original expanded universe is no longer canon. So to commemorate the loss of this rich history, I felt that it would be a good time to go over the old time periods that were contained in the Star Wars universe, because there are far more than anyone would have expected. So for the original expanded universe, things begin with an era known as Before the Republic. In this era, the Jedi Order discovers the mystical energy known as the Force, and they struggle to retain their balance of it. The Old Republic era is when the galaxy is united underneath the rule of the Galactic Senate. During this period, the Jedi are numerous and they serve as guardians of peace and justice. The Tales of the Jedi comic series takes place in this era, and this is also when the game series The Old Republic takes place. Following this time period, we have the rise of the Empire, and during this time period, we had what seemed like the defeat of the Sith, and the Republic got a little complacent. Because of this, they had no focus, and the Senate became corrupt and filled with scandal. It became so bad that they couldn't effectively govern anything. And this allowed the ambitious Senator Palpatine to become the Supreme Chancellor, as he promised he would lead the galaxy under a new order. Eventually, his true name as the Emperor would be known. Now this time period is when the prequel trilogy takes place. And if you're familiar with the movies, then you're aware of what the next time period that happened would be. And that would be the rebellion, which started with an outcry against the Empire's new tyranny. This led to a galactic civil war. This actual era seems to start at the end of the 4th movie with the destruction of the Death Star, and it ends with the death of the Emperor at the end of the 6th movie. The rebellion begins to reform itself as the new government following these events. So, in total, this era was portrayed in the Star Wars movies 4 through 6. Now once the rebellion ended, the New Republic begins. And there are problems with insurrections, Imperial loyalists, and wayward warlords. And while this is going on, Luke Skywalker was looking to restart the Jedi Order. Which leads us to the next era, which is the New Jedi Order. During the time of the New Republic, Luke Skywalker managed to get hundreds of Jedi Knights trained, and that number was growing. But the first enemy that they needed to show their new strength to was the Yuuzhan Vong, and this was an alien menace that was crossing the galaxy and laying waste to various worlds. This is shown in the New Jedi Order novels, and after this, they needed to face off with a hive-minded species in the Dark Nest trilogy books. The next era, known as Legacy, begins once they found peace with the Yuuzhan Vong, and the Republic has formed up as the Galactic Federation of the Free Alliance, and they're trying their best to work as a single functioning government. The biggest issue comes from the Skywalker children growing up and being tempted by the dark side themselves. Eventually, Jacen Solo, who is probably the wisest of the New Order, falls to the dark side, and he tries to form the New Empire. In the Fate of the Jedi series, Luke and Ben Skywalker travel the galaxy to look for how Jacen slipped into the darkness. Now I want you to keep in mind that this is a very brief overview of the expanded universe, and the expanded universe is so massive that it's actually been going on 6 months before the first movie even came out, as the first movie was turned into a novel at that time. But for me, I'm excited about this. While I've seen and read various parts of the expanded universe before, it's so massive that I found it personally difficult to get into. With a new start for it, we can treat this like the relaunches from DC and Marvel recently and get all kinds of new fans involved into something that millions of people are already passionate about. I'm Benny from Comicstorian, and if you enjoyed this video or learned something new, give it a like and share it with your friends. And also make sure you check out the rest of the Year of Fandom here at Wikia.